Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Unlock Show. I'm your host Tracy Wilson, and it's my absolute pleasure to be here with you guys today. Now, you guys know that this is the podcast where business growth and personal development collide. And I'm a business consultant and a mentor who's on an absolute mission to help you guys, entrepreneurs just like you, unlock your full potential and achieve all the amazing success that you deserve in your business and life. Now, every single episode, I promise you that I'm going to bring you insights and expert advice from successful entrepreneurs who have amazing real life stories, practical tips that you can actually apply to your own business journey. And today's episode is absolutely no exception. I have got an absolutely brilliant guest to share with you today who is also passionate about helping women find their voice and make a real impact within this big wide world that we have. But before I introduce this amazing woman, I want to ask you guys a question. I want to know if you're an entrepreneur who's actually been struggling to find their voice and make their voice heard in a really crowded market. If that's you, you want to hang around today. If you also think that, golly gosh, I just feel deep inside of me that I've got so much more to give, but don't feel as though I'm living up to my true potential and something is holding you back from that success, then you too need to hang around today, because in today's episode, we are going to be exploring the radical audacity of raising the volume of your voice with our very special guest, Tiphany Kane. Now, Tiphany is known as the Heck Yes Coach, and she's an entrepreneur and public speaker and coach and a writer who shares her own personal journey and her personal stories of overcoming obstacles to find her own power. So I want to say a huge big welcome to you, Tiff. It's fantastic to have you here. Welcome to the Unlock Show.
Oh my goodness, what a welcome. Thank you so much. And I loved those questions you posed to the people listening. Such powerful questions, such great way to get everybody thinking about, well, how am I getting my message out there? Am I getting my message out there? Is there something holding me back? I think those are really important questions to think about, whether it's our business message, our personal message, what is it? It's important to think about, how are we showing up in the world, especially as women? So thank you. Thank you for that introduction.
You're most welcome. And I'm hoping that as everybody sort of, took those questions on board, you are now sitting here contemplating, gosh, do I have something to say? Am I sharing my voice in a way that is impactful? Am I using it to build a legacy for myself and the people that surround me? So I want to know, Tiff, I mean, you've been in this game for quite some time. I know you've got a couple of really successful podcasts. You've recently spoken at Podfest in Orlando fairly recently. And so you're a seasoned professional when it comes to really understanding, finding your voice and being able to share that with the world. And nowadays, you encouraging, which I absolutely love, women all over the world to do the same. I mean, how did this come about? Where did this passion for helping other women find their voice come from?
Okay, so a little bird walk back to young Tiphany. I think so many of us where we are today, there has the roots of where we started. I was raised in what many consider a cult, in a very, very highly controlling patriarchal religion, where I did not have a voice. I did not have a say. I couldn't pray out loud. If a man was in the room, if a young boy was in the room, my voice couldn't be heard, right? So a woman in my religion I was raised in, a man had to pray in her place, right? Like my voice couldn't be heard. So I was raised in that. I left it at 19 years old. It did not fit who I was as an inquisitive, curious, bright, enthusiastic, passionate woman. I got reprimanded a lot for the questions that I was asking. I was zealous. I was all in it, but I also had lots of questions and wanted to explore, and I just wasn't allowed. So I left. I packed up my little blue Toyota Corolla, drove 3,000 miles across the country and started over. And so that kind of started this journey to finding my voice and finding my message and figuring out who I am. But it's a long journey. That was 19 years old. I'm 49 today. There's been a lot in between, toxic marriage and a career that was wonderful, but also I couldn't have my voice. And so finally, a couple of years ago, I found my voice. And I found my voice because I was looking for a job promotion at work. I was really qualified for the job, got turned down, sat down with my boss and said, okay, I just need to know what's going on, because there was a couple of jobs I got turned down for, and this one in particular, I was like, I was so the right person for this. What is happening? And I was in public education, and she said, Tiphany, these were her words, Tiphany, you're just too passionate. You want to make too many changes, and that can be really overwhelming for people. And so those were her words. And it was, to me, the greatest gift. It was because she could have said, oh, you need more experience. Maybe you need a mentor, blah, 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 blah. Fine. I probably would have stayed. But she said I was too passionate. So it was that moment of, wait a minute, I've been hiding my voice and hiding who I am for so long, and I am passionate. I want to make a difference in the world. I want to make waves and make a splash and be out there. And so it's either dim my light and stay here or find something new. And so I left. I left a 20-year career and started my something new. And podcasting was the perfect medium for that, for me to find my voice and find my message. That's the short version.
Yeah. I mean, there's always so much more to our stories, right? When you get into your 40s, it's like, oh, there's so much more to this. But, hearing that and knowing, where you came from and the environment that you were brought up in, being quite, a very controlling and stifling environment, to then go, you know what, gosh, I can only imagine how lonely that would have been and how scary that would have been to find somewhere inside of you that courage to go, this is not me. This is not who I am. And I cannot stay here to live the life that I am on this earth to live, and to make that bold decision to break away from that environment, the only environment you knew, to go and explore and be courageous enough to step into this new world of the unknown. And then, to have the career, you talk about the marriage that you were in, and then finding the courage there to be able to leave that and your workspace. And then there's often a pivotal moment, isn't there, in our lives where it's like, there's this moment where we're going to break free from, and it might be not just one thing, it's multiple things over time. But I think the story that you've just told here just shows how, how your personality is just one of passion and one of courageousness. Interestingly enough, for someone to say, you're just too passionate, and now for you to leave and be like, heck yes, you got it. I am so damn passionate about what I do. And that's almost shaped, right, what you're doing now. Become this like, heck yeah, you tell me that I'm too passionate, I'm just going to turn up the volume on that passion. You ain't seen nothing yet. So that's kind of awesome. I mean, what's so interesting about this, and I know you're super passionate about, in particular, helping women find their voice. Why that? Why helping women find their voice and not just helping everybody find their voice? Why have you come to kind of land there?
It truly comes from feeling that as a woman, as a female, for so much of my life, that I didn't have a voice, right? And the men around me did. They did. They could be in charge. They could be passionate. They could be, confident and assertive. And anytime I tried that, I was bashed down and told I was wrong. And I just feel so passionately that women, we have so much to offer. We have so much to say. And so many women that I've talked to in my life have had similar experiences to me. We are so socialized to be the good girls, to be the nice girls, to be quiet, to be, making everybody else happy and bend ourselves in pretzels to serve everybody else, that it's like, wait. We are talented. We are creative. We are interesting, we are collaborative, we are smart. Like, let's get it out there. And my podcast is called Radical Audacity. And really the way I see it as when somebody says, oh, the audacity, or oh, can you believe she had the audacity to do that? I'm like, heck yes, the audacity to do that. Like, how are you shaking up the world? How are you sharing your message? And we all have a message. We all have that thing, right? Everybody has experienced the world in a slightly different way. And there is somebody that needs to hear your experience and your message and your insight. And so, yes, I am very passionate about that. In the United States, my grandmother couldn't have her own bank account, right? She had to have a male next of kin have his name on the bank account, right? Just recently in my country, reproductive rights have been just abolished pretty much for women. And so it's just, to me, it's like it's in such a time where it is so important that we are passionate, that we do speak out, and that we let our female stories, whether it's cis, trans, non-binary, like we let our stories and our perspectives shine. People need to hear it. I'll get on my soapbox and say that over and over.
Oh yeah, you do that. You do that. And we'll turn the volume up.
That's right.
So one of the things, I know as women often, and you would, I suspect you've heard this too. I've heard it many a time. And I talk to my female counterparts and I say, gosh, you've got an amazing story you should share. And they go, well, it's not a big deal. Yeah. What's my story? Like, how can I make an impact? What do you tell women when they feel that way? Like, how does somebody find the stories inside of them that are worthy of sharing, that are that they can take and actually formulate into something that can really make an impact to others in the world?
I love this question so very much. So many times it is those quiet moments of our lives where the story is, right? It's sometimes we think, oh, we have to have these big dramatic lives, we have to have accomplished these incredible things, but often that's not actually where the story is. So the story is in the core, like your inner challenges that you've overcome, your way you've moved through the world, and the way you've done that is inspiring. There's not a woman that I have talked to that hasn't overcome something incredible in her life that I haven't found her story inspiring, right? Like everybody I talk to has something where you're like, wow, you did that? Really? You did that? Whether it was an adventure or it was some sort of heartbreak or some sort of health crisis or surviving a natural disaster or raising a neurodivergent child or having some sort of really interesting, cool career or a more quiet moment. She makes quilts. She journals regularly. She does yoga. Like whatever it is, there's something. Everybody has something, and you just need to know that it's okay. And so many times we think because it's easy for us that it's not that interesting. But we forget that and I'm using air quotes for the people that are listening that aren't seeing, whatever is easy for us is often very difficult for other people. For example, getting on a mic like you do, going live. Do you know how many people wouldn't go live? And you just do it. Mm-hmm. You just do it. Mm-hmm. That is so inspiring to so many people, right?
I want to go there, even delve into that even more, because I think there's a real magic in that, and that often we don't always see our own magic. We don't often see that, gosh, just to be able to, for example, push go live and be on a camera and speaking to somebody, you get to, I won't say that I wasn't crapping myself the first time that I did that. I'm like, oh my God, what buttons do I push? And what am I going to say? And am I going to say the right thing? And I might, come across the wrong way. So you still have all of those things, right? Mm-hmm. But over time, you get better and better at something. So how does somebody understand that is your little piece of magic? Like, how can someone identify that?
I love this. So I went through this because I didn't know what mine was. And I read a book that said, you know what? Keep a calendar for 2 weeks, like a journal type of calendar, where every time somebody gives you a compliment or says that you did something well or says, oh, this is something special about you, you write it down, you notice. And so I did that for 2 weeks. And I started seeing a pattern of the things that I was good at that I didn't realize. And it makes you be super present in the moment when you're with people and they're talking to you about you. Because usually people talk to us about us and we're like, oh, yeah, no, it's no big deal. Yeah. And we're not present in the moment. We're not really listening to what they're saying. We're finding some way to deflect it or whatever, whether it's, oh, your fashion, like the way you dress is always so sparkly and joyful, write that down. Or if it's, when I'm in the room with you, you just make me feel so warm and safe and comfortable. Or if it's, oh my goodness, I have never eaten a chocolate chip cookie this moist and delicious. What is your secret ingredient? It doesn't matter what people are telling us. If they're saying something positive, write it down. So spend 2 weeks being very present in your conversations with people. And when they tell you something positive, write it down. And then you sit and you look back at those 2 weeks with a very honest, open eye and start seeing the patterns. Oh, people tell me I make them feel warm and safe. People tell me I am a good listener. People do like talking to me. People say that I give good advice and good feedback. Okay, all right. These are my strengths. Or people tell me that they're always excited around me and I bring up the energy of the room. And anytime I walk in the room, they know special things are going to happen and they feel special and they feel seen and heard. And they know that, the music's going to get turned up a couple of volumes and everybody's going to be happy. Those are very special things that not everybody brings. And so when you start noticing the things people tell you, then you start noticing your special magic.
What a great piece of advice. Like, just a very practical activity to just grab your pen and paper out and just start really taking note of that. And, often, again, as women, we like you say, you just sort of brush that off. Oh, thanks, thanks. But okay, that's nice. But you don't really take it on board, right? We're not, it's almost as if like you mentioned right at the beginning, just be a good girl, do as you're told, speak when you're spoken to, don't speak out of line, dress a certain way. All of these, I call them the she myths, which is actually a book that Vicky Hellman and I wrote, right? And the she myths that we are almost indoctrinated into to believe those things about ourselves over time. And what you're saying here is, stop a minute, take a deep breath, and just be present in those moments. Listen to what people are saying and take that. Put that feather in your cap, write it down so that you can go back to it later and use that as a guide and an assessment to understand how other people are seeing the strength and the magic that you have. And then being able to take that magic and go, well, actually, they said I'm good at that, and that. And what's the special ingredient there? What's the pattern that I'm seeing to be able to create something from that? Now, I know that you talk also about this ability that we as women have to kind of lead in a different way from men. Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean by that? Because leaders are leader, some people would say, but you're saying actually women lead very, very differently. Can you expand on that? Because I think that's going to give people especially the women out there, it's going to give you a real insight to understand why it's so important for you to find your voice and to step up and start to stand out.
Yes. So the part one of this is we are told what leadership should, again, I'm using air quotes, should look like, sound like, right? And typically it's very masculine, very male, very lean in, very bold, very, a lot of times top down, right? But as women, a lot of times our strengths are collaboration. Like women can be amazing collaborators. We are empathetic. We love story. We love the big idea, the why. We also love getting into the nitty gritty of things and understanding kind of the soul behind it, right? So if we can lean into those things more as female leaders, we bring a lot of the heart to it. I don't know if you saw that old movie, I think it was back in the 80s with the 9 to 5 with Dolly Parton and the old one where they shook up leadership, right? I mean, they kind of went about it in a crazy way and, tied up their boss and kidnapped him and stuff. No, let's not do that. But, they changed things, right? And they changed the co-working models to make it easier for parents and just made a brighter, more conducive environment to working more from your heart. And everybody works better when they can work closer to their authentic self. And I think as women, we're comfortable going there, right? We're comfortable having those conversations about authenticity and integrity and getting in deeper to the nitty gritty of what makes people who they are. And if we can lean into that in leadership, and that's our lean in, is collaborating, communicating, connecting, finding the strength of the people that we work with. That is so powerful. And it changes the face of leadership.
Yeah, it's leaning into that innate, that nurturing that we all have, particularly if you've brought up children, you're a mother, you just have that kind of nature about you, and being able to bring people close, share sometimes the deeper secret, sometimes, the challenges, the obstacles that we face, and it allows others to see, hey, you know what? If they've overcome that, I too can overcome that. So now that we've sort of spoken about like this real opportunity that we have as women to find our voices, how do we take that and start to almost carve out our own space in this world? Particularly, like if we talk about podcasting, it's dominated by men. Women are up and coming. There's more and more of us, starting to find our voice and starting to speak out. But there's no mistake. Currently, it is dominated by men. How do we, and even the business world, how do we start to help other women find their voice and stand out in this crowded place?
So many times it's our own example that is such a great inspiration to others, right? You brought up podcasting. 30% of podcast hosts are females or non-binary individuals, right? 30%. Whereas in the United States, females, non-binary individuals make up about 51% of the population, maybe even slightly more than that. So that's a big gap. That's a big gap as far as representation goes. So there is so much room for growth. That being said, we live in the first time in history where there are no gatekeepers to us getting our voice out, right? No gatekeepers. It used to be if a woman was an artist, she had to put out her art under a pseudonym that was male, or a male colleague would put his name on her artwork. Same with authors, same with architects and scientists and mathematicians. Like as women, we couldn't be seen or heard. We couldn't be accomplished, right? Well, not anymore. There is nobody that can stop you from starting a podcast. It is one of those beautiful open platforms. If you can dream it, you can do it. If you can get a mic and headphones and a computer, boom, You've got it. Same with starting a blog. There is nobody that can tell you not to start a blog or a YouTube channel or a social media channel. Or you can even self-publish your own book now, right? There is nobody gatekeeping in this moment. And so this is the perfect time for you to find that place where you're comfortable. Maybe you're a writer. Then self-publish a book or write a blog or do a newsletter. Maybe you enjoy speaking. Start a podcast. Maybe you love being on camera. Do a vlog. Get a YouTube channel going. It doesn't matter where you start. Just start. You will inspire other women to also start, particularly women of color, women, trans women, non-binary people. We need more of that representation. People need to see people that look like them to have their own permission to speak out and raise their volume and have their stories be told. And we need those stories.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, Tiphany? When you think about those statistics of the number of women that are represented in this industry, podcasting, 30%. Yet when you think about the listeners, there's more females that actually listen. I think the statistic is something like 57%. So nearly 60% of podcast listeners are female. So it's interesting that, we've got this real disparity between, those of us that are listening and the voices in which you're hearing. So if we can get to a point where we've got some, balance there, where women can actually hear the voices of other women who are going through the same sorts of things as them, you really start to shift the pendulum really starts to swing. I want to, I'm a huge advocate of podcasting too. People that have tuned into my show previously will know that I preach about this. It's something that personally I have found to be an extremely I'm going to say liberating experience just by starting your own podcast. Yeah, when you started, you heard me say, crapping myself. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Particularly jumping into the space of live video. But over time, I mean, I know for me personally, it's been a discipline and being able to find your voice and think about what I want to speak about and in confidence. All of those things have certainly grown over time. Do you want to speak a little bit about some of the, I suppose, the benefits that you've found yourself, and also the benefits that you find some of your students and the people that you help to find their voice have experienced through podcasting?
Yes, and I like to put it in. There's 3 to 4 categories where the benefits come from, and the first category to me is the most important one. It is that internal confidence category. Right? How you said, I was terrified of hitting that live button, and yet you did it. And that tells your nervous system and your brain and everything that I can do these hard things. I can do these scary things. I got this. I can do this. I didn't die. Right? And so to me, that is the biggest benefit of podcasting. You're committing to yourself. You're saying, I am going to upload an episode once a week or twice a week or once every other week or once a month, whatever the commitment is. When you honor your commitment, the internal shift and changes that happen are massive. So that's one. Number 2 is the collaboration that happens. That is beyond magic. The people that you meet through this medium, you and I spending this hour talking to each other, we have created an intimate connection that hopefully we will continue to nurture for years and years and years, and find other ways to collaborate and work together that is priceless. You can't put monetary value on that. Can't put an ROI number on that, because it's truly this growth of your circle of influence and all these people and these amazing stories you hear, and that building of intimacy. And I think it builds a trust. Again, it goes a little internal. It builds a trust in yourself to be able to make these intimate connections, which can be really hard in our modern day and age. And it builds a trust in other people of, I can connect with these people. I can be inspired by these people. I can be in the same room as Tracy. We're doing, a lot of ways similar work, and I am not in competition with her. I am a collaborator with her, and that feels so good, right? So that's number 2. And then number 3, there's all kinds of magic that happens, doors that open. And a lot of it is because of these collaborations, right? That suddenly you say, oh, yes, I'm interested in learning more about this or talking to this kind of person. And then the person you're talking to says, oh, yeah, I can connect you with so-and-so, or I'm putting on a summit. Why don't you come speak at my summit? Or, I have this project going on. Do you want to come collaborate on the project? And then boom, 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 boom. Doors open that you never could have imagined putting on your vision board because you didn't know they were there. And now because of these collaborations and these people you're talking to, just magic just starts happening. And then there's the last thing. If your podcast is your business or is a part of your business, you grow that know, like, and trust factor with your listeners, and business just grows. It just does. So that to me, there's kind of 4 categories of magic that come from podcasting that I've never personally experienced in any other medium. It's so special to podcasting.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It really is. And it's interesting, like those 4 categories that you're talking about, that confidence, but the piece where the reality is I'm on the Gold Coast of Australia, you're in California, the likelihood of you and I bumping into one another at somewhere in life is pretty slim. But the fact that we've been able to come together and collaborate on this particular episode, like you say, it just opens up this world of collaboration opportunities, whole new loads of friendships, opportunities for you to continue to build upon relationships. You've got a friend in Australia now that if you ever came here, you can come and hang out here and stay with me. I mean, there's all those sorts of things that come from just simply taking the time to go, do you know what? I'm just going to give this a go. I'm just going to grab myself a microphone, and if you're doing live like this with a camera and my computer, and just give this a go and start talking. And before long, the magic starts to unfold. Beautiful things happen. And of course, as you say, that 4th piece of providing an opportunity for your potential clients to see the inside of you, to see the authentic you, because I would say that, when you're either doing a live video or you're podcasting, you cannot lie. No. You cannot, showing up week after week after week, unless you're somebody who's a chameleon that is doing something different today and then different the next week. Generally, it's very difficult to be disingenuous in a format like this.
You're 100% correct. And the more genuine you show up, the more open and vulnerable and honest and authentic that you are, the better results you get, like the better connections you make, the better your audience connects with you, your guests connect with you. People can tell when you're fake and formulaic and it doesn't come through quite as well, right? But when you're real and you're honest, then it's like a breath of fresh air to people. Like, oh yeah, I want to be around that person.
Absolutely. So I mean, I know that, our question that we started with today, for people to go, am I holding back? Am I actually using my voice? Am I being seen? Am I being heard? What is the one piece of advice? Like if we had to give someone, another woman out there, a girlfriend that is like, oh, I want to do it, but I'm just not sure how. Like, what's the piece of advice you would give them?
Take the next little step. Right? So what is the next little step for you? It might be going live on Instagram for 2 minutes, right? Like that might be absolutely terrifying to go live on Instagram for 2 minutes, right? And say something. And and do that. Make that next little step. What are you going to say? What are you going to do? And just show up and do that regularly. And then up level from there and take the next little step. And maybe it's now you're doing an Instagram live weekly and it's a half-hour Instagram live show, right? From there, maybe you're like, you know what? I'm enjoying this. I'm getting a mic and I'm actually going and going to do the podcast thing. Or I'm going to get a good camera and I'm going to have a live YouTube show, or, whatever it is. Like, it's those little steps when you are building your confidence, building your abilities, taking those little steps, believing in yourself, trusting yourself, they really add up. And if you're consistent with that and you truly do it, it happens pretty quickly. I don't know how quickly it happened for you, but I know when I started podcasting, I didn't tell anybody. It was like a secret. I started a Instagram account just for the podcast and didn't tell anybody about it. I started my podcast, launched it, didn't tell anybody except for a few very close select friends. I was so hesitant. And within like 4 weeks, I was singing it from the rooftops. I was having so much fun with it. I was like, yes, this is fantastic. This is wonderful. I'm loving it. I'm now 3 podcasts in, going to start another one. Like, love it, right? Love it. And I've helped about 100 women start their podcast and grow their podcast. And so it's just really... It starts with that little step. Nobody starts big. Everybody, even the biggest celebrity out there, started small. And so just take that next small step.
I think that is a great piece of advice. And often, we look at things and we think, like you say, oh my God, I've got to take this giant leap to get going. When in fact, all you've got to do is just take that one tiny step. Take that one tiny step and inch your way forward. And before long, the confidence starts to grow. And you like swimming in a pool. When I take my grandson swimming, initially it's like, oh, I'm going to stay on the step. I'm a little bit frightened here. And then one more step and one more step. And now before long, he's swimming around the pool like a fish. He's quite happy in there. And that's the same thing with what we do in life, is just take that one simple step and start moving forward. Let's go down the path of busting a few podcasting myths. So I know for new people, right, they're like, God, there's this, and I'll call them myths, but we get stuck in this world of I can't do it. And I'm going to call them, they are the myths. So the first one is podcasting is complicated. Let's talk to that. Podcasting is complicated.
First of all, it's really easy to make things hard. It is so easy to make things hard. So sure, podcasting can be massively complicated. So easy to do that, but it can also be pretty darn simple. I mean, the very basics of podcasting, a little mic. You could argue that a mic's not even that necessary, although I'm a sound person, so let's get a little mic. There, you can get a decent one for under $70. Little USB mic connects to your computer or your iPad or your phone even, and press record. That's it. And then you can edit or not. A lot of people don't even edit, and upload it to your podcast host. Boom. You've got a podcast. So you can get all into, the marketing and the making the elaborate SEO optimized show notes and doing, visual audio sound bites and all of the things. And sure, you can make it complicated, but you don't have to, and you can start really easy and you can get more complicated as you go. I'm sure your show did not start with these beautiful graphics and this nice, you probably didn't, I don't know. Did you have a great camera when you started? I don't know. But, we all start smaller and simple. So start in that small, simple space and then grow and then expand and learn how to do those more complicated things as you get more comfortable. Myth busted.
Couldn't agree totally. So let's go down the path of we'll do another myth, and that is that podcasting doesn't work, and it's a dying art. And can you
Okay.
believe that's actually a myth? What,
Yes.
that's even something that people talk about today?
Yes. Yes. Okay. They say it about everything, right? I mean, everything. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's dying. Oh, it's dying. Oh, it's dying. They've said it about radio. They've said it about YouTube. They've said it about podcasting. Like, there are some things that come and go, but in general, humans consume their information in just a couple of ways, right? We consume by audio. We've done it from radio since the inception of radio. And I got to tell you, in times of war, radio was the one thing that connected people together when no other communication could get out there. There were people that risked their lives to get a radio message out, and people that risked their lives to hear that radio message. Okay. So we're hungry for audio. Video, same thing. Like, that's not going to go away. Where people will either consume audio, video, or written, right? That's books aren't going away. Like, radio didn't make books go away. Video didn't make books go away. Like, none of them are making anything go away. As humans, we have at different times, different places, different types of information we consume in different ways. Okay. I got a bookcase of books behind me. I love books. I love podcasts. I love my Netflix. Like, I love them all. It's not going to go away. So that's number one. Number two is podcasting started as a rebel media. Actually, back in Russia, people passed the equivalent of a cassette tape around with a message, a rebel message, right? And it was the way they could get the message sent out. And that's kind of the very early podcast days, was passing along this cassette, right? And then it turned into, can we do it digitally without something physical? And then in modern times, it got turned into an RSS feed and a way of saying, well, we have these stories we want to get out that can't really be put out on radio. And so if we have this RSS feed and we have this lack of gatekeepers, these people telling us you can't do this, if we do that, then maybe we can get the story told. And so that's kind of been the evolution of podcasting. So when you think about that, it's not going to die. That rebel spirit is inside us, that hunger for whether it's education or being entertained, like, we need that as humans. So no, it's not going to die. Is it going to shift and change? Absolutely. Are there companies that have spent a ridiculous amount of money making kind of ridiculous shows that may or may not, like, should that have happened? I don't know. But, things like that are changing. But podcasting is here.
Well, but that leads me to my next question. I totally agree with you. I think, now is the time more than ever, particularly for women, to get you to find your voice, get going. And if you need some help with that, obviously you can reach out to Tiff or to me, and we'll help you get started with your own podcast really easily. You do not have to be tech savvy to do this either. Very simple steps. So I want to know, you had recently spoken at Podfest. Where are you seeing the future of podcasting going? Like, what came out of that event that sort of, like, was there anything that was like, oh my God, that's mind blowing? And there's a lot of people not doing this in podcasting right now, but they should be.
Yeah. Actually, the next wave of podcasting is making it much more accessible for the podcaster and the listener to interact, right? So there are, it's podcasting 2.0 and Web3 are like coming together in a beautiful way. Really beyond my realm of understanding. There's way more intelligent people on this subject out there that can talk better to this. But what's really coming out of it is podcasters have a desire to interact with their listeners. Listeners have a desire to interact with the podcasters. YouTube has that great, somebody can make a comment and, there's that interaction been missing in podcasting. There are apps like Fireside that is bringing that in to where Good Pods, people like that are bringing it into almost a little bit more of a social media feel where now you can interact with each other. And even some of these, you can get a version of Bitcoin for that interaction, right? Like it's like a micro Bitcoin that you can get for interacting with each other. So you also get like, everybody loves, that extrinsic motivation of, oh, I get a little bit of micro money here is pretty cool. But that's really where it's coming. And this, to me, is where women listening are making the difference. Because that is what we crave. We want interaction. We want connection. So this, to me, is very much what the women hosts and the women listeners have been asking for, saying, can we have a way to connect with each other, please?
Absolutely. Now, I know, because you're so passionate about helping women raise their voice and being heard, you are on a mission at the moment, and you've got a very exciting, I'm going to say, event that you have been creating. So I want to know a little bit more about the Sonic Bloom Awards, because, you helping other women find their voice, but now also helping them to celebrate their voices and the celebration of other women in, their fellow sisters, celebrating them at the same time. Tell us a little bit about that, and tell us about She Podcast Live.
Yes. Okay. So the why of this, as you said, is the celebrating female voices, celebrating the work. So these awards go beyond like genre type of words of like, oh, the best co-hosted podcast. But it's more like, how are we shifting and changing the industry? How are we giving back? So like one of the categories has to do with somebody that has given back the most to the community. Somebody who is always there, always ready to share, always ready to help. So we can nominate people for that, right? Or there's the Rainbow Mic Award, which really honors people doing powerful work in the LGBTQ plus community. All kinds of awards that are a little bit different, that have more to do with how is this podcaster shaping the community and bringing us all forward, right? So kind of the bigger idea, not just, oh, this is, a great podcast in the comedy area.
An award, or award to the person who's got the most download. It's like something that's really making a difference to the world, whether it be their local community, to the community at large, the world, whatever it is. You've got all these different categories where you can be recognized for what you're doing. And like you say, it doesn't matter if you're it's not about, I'm going to use Joe Rogan as an example, but it's not recognizing the Joe Rogans of the world, even though he does some amazing things. It might even be just recognizing that woman that is doing her podcast week in, week out with her children in tow, trying to run her household, and just showing up, sharing her message, and being there when her community needs her, no matter what's going on behind the scenes. And I absolutely love that. I applaud you for doing that, because often we don't get seen in that light, right? Where it's like, it's okay, you did a good job, thanks for coming, carry on. As you were, it's kind of like that, where you're saying, no, let's like raise them up. Let's share and celebrate one another together.
In fact, I was just going to say, in fact, to qualify for these awards, you have to be an independent podcaster. So you can't be somebody that has, a $6,000 per episode budget, lots of corporate money behind you, part of a giant podcast network. Okay. We're saying, no. We want people that are like down and dirty and in the trenches doing the work. And maybe you have a small team, but it's not a $6,000 per episode team or $10,000 per, like an NPR episode costs about $10,000 per episode to make, right? Like that is the budget. So we're saying, no, we want to recognize the people that are in the nitty gritty doing the work because their heart is calling to them to do this. And you can either nominate yourself or nominate somebody who is really inspiring to you. And it's super, super low cost, right? It's $50 to nominate somebody, and you can nominate them in 3 different categories. Whereas most award ceremonies, they're several $100s. They're cost prohibitive. They really focus on the big, giant, flashy shows with lots of money behind them. And we said, no. We really, really want to get in and recognize the people that are doing the hard work. And Jess Kupfer, excuse me, I just lost my voice. Jess Kupferman from She Podcasts and I are organizing this together. And She Podcast, if any of your listeners are familiar with them, they put on a conference, She Podcast Live, and it is for women, non-binary individuals, gender fabulous people, and it is really about celebrating and amplifying those voices. And so this award ceremony builds on that work and really celebrates the people doing that work.
I love that. So what we would say now, like if you're, one of those women who is listening to a podcast, you might be listening to this show right now, you're listening to other shows that Tiphany is on, and you've heard about the Sonic Bloom Awards, then I would encourage you to nominate those women that you are seeing that are podcasting, that are doing their thing, that are showing up, that are making a real difference. They might have made a difference to your life. Go ahead and nominate them. I'm just going to pop up onto the screen right now where you can go. So it's www.sonicbloomawards.com. Head on over there. That's where you'll find the nomination forms. You'll be able to nominate, a woman, many women who you think are making a real difference in your life or those around you by podcasting. And please do that, because the more women we get that are being recognized for what they do, the more encouragement you're giving to other women to step up and do the same thing. So again, just sonicbloomawards.com. Now nominations, I know the awards are in June, so you want to get in there and make sure that you get your nomination in as soon as possible so that you don't miss the cutoff. But all the details are on that website, Sonic Bloom Awards. You'll be able to read all about it and be able to nominate that very special woman that you've been listening to podcasting and doing her thing. So I think that is such an awesome thing to do. Before we close out today's show, Tiff, I sort of am interested in, let's give those that have been maybe podcasting for a little while, maybe they started in, their bedroom, or even some people in their closet, podcasting and doing their thing with very little equipment. And they're now at a point where they've done many shows and they're like, how do I break through and start getting my voice heard by more people? And, we can talk about some metrics, and sometimes these are vanity metrics, but a lot of people are always concerned with, how do I just get more downloads? Is there a tip that you can give other women out there that will help them to have their voice heard by having their show downloaded more times?
Yes. Downloads honestly don't mean a lot. Okay. They really don't mean a lot. If you have a show about quilting, you might have a very small audience. And so having 100 downloads per episode is like massively fantastic. So the downloads don't matter, and you can't compare your downloads to anybody else's, because it's apples to oranges to grapes to kiwi, right? Like you cannot compare your downloads. So that's let's get off the download wagon. But you do want to see the downloads that you're getting. You want to see them trending up, right? You want to see that more people are listening and growing. Number one way female listeners find a new show, the number one way, you ready? Is by a friend or a family member recommending a show. So the best thing you can do is create content that people want to share. That's just number one. And then give them a way to share it, right? So have your call to action at the end of your podcast be less about the ratings and the reviews. Those are kind of vanity metrics. Apple has said loud and clear, it doesn't actually help your show to be found any better, right? Having ratings and reviews. What does help your show to be found is putting that call to action at the end that says, hey, if you can think of a friend who would be inspired by this message, would you please share this podcast episode with them? Or if this episode meant something to you, would you please, snap a picture of yourself listening to it and put it up on social media and tag me? I would love to know that you're listening. and share it with your friends. Some sort of call to action that says, I'd like you to share this episode, because it's one listener at a time that grows our show, and caring about that one listener. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
If you have 30 people listening to your show every week, you're in the top 50% of all podcasts. And that's 30 people. If you had 30 people around your dinner table, that's a lot of cars in your driveway. That's a lot of food you're making. That's a lot of eyes listening on you, listening to you tell your story. 30 people is a lot. And we're in this weird digital world where somehow we forget that that's actually humans, 30 humans listening to the sound of your voice. So be joyful that 30 people are listening, love on those 30 people, and then ask them to share. And eventually those 30 turns to 40, which turns to 60, which turns to 80, which turns to 100, which turns to 500, and it doesn't always happen fast. Huge shows, a lot of them have been going 4 or 5 years. You're on over 200 episodes yourself, right? This is a long game. This is a marathon. You're going to pivot. You're going to shift. You're going to change. So just know that you're probably not going to launch and have 1,000 downloads per episode the next day without a giant PR team behind you, right? It's okay to have 30 listens per episode, right? It's good. And be joyful about that.
I love that message, because, that speaks to all you women out there that are thinking, gosh, I'm too scared to do it because nobody's going to listen to me. I can assure you, just like Tiphany has, it's a long game. You make a commitment to show up, to share your voice on the regular, and day by day, week by week, more and more people will start to listen to you. More and more people, you have the opportunity to impact other people's lives through the fact that you are prepared to step up and open your mouth and share what's inside of you, the magic that you have. So I love that. And I couldn't agree with you more. 200 odd shows in, this is my favorite thing, bar none, to do every week, is to be able to get on and be with those that want to listen, and be with my guests and get to learn and understand and know them, you get to, understand people at a deep level when you're talking with them in this manner. It's not like you've just caught up with them down the street. This is a very different type of environment. So I really, really think that this is the time for women to stand up and to be, be prepared to be counted, be prepared to share your voice in this way. So I love that. Tiff, we could talk about this all day, and I think some of the things that you shared today are just, I hope, here I go, I'm going to sound like I'm regurgitating what Tiff has said, but, I love what she's been talking about. And I want you guys to know, if you're listening today and you've thought, gosh, there's even just one thing I've taken out of this show today that I have found inspirational, that I think has made a difference to my life, then please, the best thing you can do is actually share this episode with a girlfriend, share it with somebody else, whether it's a girlfriend or a male friend, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Somebody who you think is going to get something out of this, will value what we've spoken about today, and will be able to implement these things to start taking action to enable yourself to have a voice and to be heard in this sometimes very crowded place that we have. So I want to say a huge big thank you to you, Tiphany, for your expertise and your willingness to come on the show and just be very genuine in sharing what you know, and for the fact that you are somebody who has been prepared to step up and be that voice that says to other women, come on, I'm with you, I got you, let's go. Thank you very, very much. All right, guys, you guys know that you're probably thinking to yourself, I need to know more about Tiphany. Where can I find her? I'm going to give you a couple of places. You can absolutely find Tiphany Kane on Instagram, on LinkedIn is a place you can go and find her. She's all over that. You can also find her at KaSa Media. So it's KaSaMedia pro.com. Head on over there. That's where you'll get more of Tiff. If you've enjoyed what she's had to say today, you are going to enjoy her website and also the couple of podcasts that she runs. So find her on her website and then go and connect with her and start listening to what she's got to say on the 2 podcasts that she has available. She's live on there every single week. So I want to say thank you very much to you guys for joining me today. It's always a pleasure to be here. It's a privilege for both Tiphany and I to be here and sharing this with you today. If you are an entrepreneur and you are looking for ways to be able to find your voice, be able to take what you know, turn it into a really successful business and, be able to share your message with the world, then I want you to continue to dial in, tune into the Unlocked Show. We go live every single week, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Brisbane time. And you guys know what I always say, you need to go and live your life unlocked because there is just no other way. So I want to say thanks very much and bye for now. See you next Wednesday. Bye, everyone. Thanks so much, Tiphany. That was awesome.
Thank you. Have a beautiful day. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Well, I'll tune in and see what else you've got going on and keep me updated with the Sonic Bloom Awards. And if there's anything that I can do to help you with any of that stuff, I am more than happy to.
Thank you. Spread the word about the Sonic Bloom Awards. It's our first year. It's our inaugural year. We're going to have a big gala party at She Podcast Live. And we just, we want to get the word out and get people nominating. And we want to recognize as many different voices as possible. So if you can just get the word out.
Well, I absolutely will continue to do that. And, if you've got any feedback, I mean, I know you do podcasting all the time. So if there's anything that you think, gosh, Trace, you should be doing this, or, you could have done that better, feel free to give me that feedback because I'm always looking for ways to improve the show.
Well, I'm loving it. You've done a beautiful job. It's always fun to be on like a live recorded one. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit of a different vibe, right? You gotta be on it a little, and you gotta be there and really present. And it's fun. It's a really fun vibe. So I really enjoyed today. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Well, I'll be sure to make sure that we reconnect a little bit further down the track. Have an awesome day. Thanks, Tiphany. See ya.
Bye.